Hi there, Massy here, coach, strategist and author of now 5 books. My most recent book being Decision Making Mastery, Become a Skillful and Conscious Co-Creator of Your Destiny. And that is the topic we're going to be talking about today. But before we do, I would like to welcome you to the Life Masterclass podcast series, coming to you all the way from beautiful Bali. And it's a gorgeous day here in Bali. Hope it's a gorgeous day where you are. The Life Masterclass is about raising your level of vibration, vitality, success, abundance, health, and all of those things, that plethora of all of those, about all these things in life. How can we level up these things and in practical ways? So I sort of focus on a particular thing and then try and look at how we can practically integrate this concept, this philosophy, this idea into our daily living. That's what I'm about. So. And this is take 2. I recorded this same podcast only moments ago, but the battery decided not to work. So I'm back for more. Okay, so I'm going to do either a 2 or 3 part series of Decision Making Mastery. So I wrote this book, Decision Making Mastery, over the course of 2020. And 2020 was a very interesting year for all of us. And I got to see a lot of really, really atrocious decisions being made. Some pretty mediocre decisions, some average, some good, and even some great decisions. So there was the full spectrum of decisions over the course of 2020. Now, I base my experience to talk about decision making on 14 years as an officer in the Australian Army, 5 years consulting to Olympic Games and mega events around the world, and the last 13 plus years coaching. So lots of different people from lots of different walks of life, and I've got to witness firsthand some people making some pretty atrocious decisions. So the first thing I want to say on this whole decision-making process is, first of all, acknowledging the importance of us leveling up our skills when it comes to decision making. Now, I don't know about you, but I certainly wasn't taught anything about making decisions when I went through school. Obviously, when I went to the military, it's a big part of the process is learning formally how to make decisions. So we went pretty deep into there. But most people haven't had any formal training in this. So I figure too, and I use this word destiny, the choices we make moment by moment and day by day have an absolutely enormous influence on the destiny that we experience in our life. But I use the term co-creator because I want to acknowledge that there's a lot of things outside myself I can't control. There's cosmic events, there's planetary events, there's country events, there's state events, there's community events. A lot of things can make impositions on me. For instance, 2020, lots of impositions on us, things taken away. And an interesting year. So what I need to do is, how can I make the best decision within this environment, within this context, to achieve the outcome that I most desire? And I do that not by leaving it to chance, crossing my fingers, crossing my toes, hoping that it all works out. I do that by deliberate intention, by doing certain things in certain ways. So that's what I teach about in the book, about what can we do specifically to level up in this decision-making process and have a greater influence on the steerage, the course, the journey of our destiny through this beautiful thing called life. So I'm going to focus over this presentation on a couple of key points. Mainly looking at mistakes, but again, if we identify what the mistakes are, quite often the opposite of those is revealed by looking at those. That's a mistake, so I can understand what I need to do to mitigate that particular circumstance. So the first thing I think is the biggest mistake is people aren't in the right state of physical state, mental state, emotional state, even spiritual state to be making the decisions they make. And the caveat I'll put on is, I talk about decision making that has major consequences. So if it's a decision as to whether I eat at the Korean restaurant or the Japanese restaurant, low consequences. The worst consequence could be that it was a bit of a dud. So you're like, okay. I'm more interested in the bigger decisions, there's the ones that have, course correcting moments in our life. It might be something to do with which profession do I move in the direction of. What choice do I make in the professional context? In my company, do I stay or do I go? Do I do this or do I do that? In a personal context, maybe there's a health challenge. What do I choose to do with this particular health challenge? What course of action will I take? Maybe it's in relationship. Do I move into it? Do I move out of it? Do I do things differently within that relationship? There's decisions to be made there. And decisions in all of these areas have major consequences, major impact. So if they have major consequences, we need to be a little bit more deliberate and intentional about how we go through this decision-making process. And that's, essentially why I wrote the book. So people could have a higher skill set and a greater sense of awareness as to where the right pathway is, where the mistakes are most likely made, what they can do to, again, mitigate those mistakes or the likelihood of those mistakes. So the first thing I say, and the thing I think where people make the greatest mistake, is they're not in the right physical, emotional, spiritual, mental state to actually undertake a decision or draw on or determine a decision at the level they need to do because of the consequences if they don't make a great decision. So what does this mean? It means we stack the game in our favour. We make sure that we're in the right physical state. We're well hydrated. We've had a bite to eat, so we're not hungry. We're well rested. Like physically, we're in this great state. Mentally, we're clear. We don't have distractions there. There's not several things on our mind as we're trying to focus on this thing. We might have to clear some stuff from our minds. We're focusing on this most important decision we need to make. Emotionally, I'm in the emotional state. And the biggest, emotional different state is, am I in a survival emotional state, a fear-based state, or am I in an elevated, high vibrational state? Am I in this state of awe and excitement and wonder and curiosity and all of those sort of things? So I want to make sure I'm in the right state. And spiritually might be, am I feeling connected? Am I feeling supported by life? And whatever the definition of that is for you, whether it's source, whether it's God, whether it's life, whether it's Mother Nature, again, feeling as though this life is coursing through me. As I draw this breath in, I'm drawing life in, and I've got the whole team on my side, me internally and something externally as well. So I've set myself up for that. Now I'm ready to play the game. I don't play the game before then. I call a timeout. If I'm not ready to play it at that level for this high consequence game, I need to take a step back. And I need to prepare myself again, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, to make this decision. So there's the first thing. The second thing is people go into the decision-making process with a whole bunch of assumptions. And if you're trying to make a good decision based on assumptions, you're sort of, building a structure not on a solid foundation. It's like wobbly, it's got cracks, it's not a solid foundation. Truth is a solid foundation, fact is a solid foundation. And as we've seen through 2020, there's a difference between the quality of some facts. I think there's facts and then there's a fact that has got a truth which has a sort of a vibrational energy to it. It feels. So it doesn't just intellectually sound like it makes sense, it actually feels like it makes sense as well. That's where you want to get to. That's the information base that you want to have to make these decisions on. So anything that's assumption, you want to sort of bring it down and turn it into a fact. If it's a relationship-based thing, you need to understand exactly, rather than assuming someone thought a particular thing, asking them a question to confirm whether what you think in your mind is a truth or whether it's an assumption. So that's the second piece, is people make mistakes by making decisions based on assumptions. Turn your assumptions into truth. Fact, and go even more powerful by bringing it into a truth, a feeling sense of that as well. Then once you've got that information, you're more likely to make a sound decision. And the third thing is just time, like this idea of creating some space people rush into this thing, like get coerced into, oh, you need to give me this decision now. When in most cases, unless someone's in law enforcement, they're in the military, maybe they're working in a medical profession, an ICU unit, quite often the decisions aren't life or death and don't need to be made in a split second. Now, for those people in professions, and I was in the military for 14 years, they are highly trained to be able to respond to lots of different situations. So a lot of time the decision has been taken out of the process because they have worked out in advance, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. If this happens, we do this. And they actually get trained in actually enacting those particular things. So a lot of times the decision-making process has been made in advance and then someone's trained up to perform in a certain way that matches that decision-making process. So I'm sort of not so worried about those ones that need immediate decisions, which are life or death. I'm more interested in those decisions for you, which are course correcting, the relationship stuff, the health stuff, the professional stuff, those things. Create space, don't be rushed into it. If you have a boss telling you, I need a decision on this, sort of give the, whatever it is, however you need to do it with your boss, back off a little bit. And say to your boss, look, I'm not in the right physical, mental, emotional state to make this high quality decision at this point in time. If you want me to do it now, I'm going to do like at a 60 or 70%. However, if you give me half an hour to step outside, drink some water, get some fresh air, clear my mind and that sort of stuff, I'm going to step back in and you're going to get a 90% plus response from me. Then it's back to your boss to decide how they want to play with that. So again, creating this time and space to do this thing. So in summary, those three things, making sure we're in the right state, physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. Second thing, making sure we take any assumptions and turn them into truths. And really having those pieces. And a truth, if the information that you're using is a series of truth, it's this solid foundation. You're going to make a more empowered decision and a decision that's going to last as well. And the other one, don't let this time be compressed around you. Own your power, push out, create some boundaries and create some space so that you have the right time to bring the full weight of your attention and your sort of mental plasma and everything about yourself into that decision-making process. So there you go. That's just the first part of this decision-making mastery. I'm going to probably do a two-part series as I think about it now, and then I'll let you dive into the book. So the book is Decision Making Mastery, available on Amazon. You can get it in Kindle form or you can get it in hardcover. Here's the deal, the dealio. Until the end of March 2021, the book is going to be on Kindle for $1 until it goes up to its regular price of $8.99 for that Kindle version. So for $1, you can get the Kindle version of Decision Making Mastery. It is worth doing, I can guarantee it. If you can level up your decision-making skills by even 10%, you're going to create a different destiny. There's no doubts about it. So, if you have any questions, reach out to me via my website, carlmassy.com. Just go to the contact page, send me a message there and I'll get back to you. I love getting asked questions. If you'd like to work with me, again, go through that process, carlmassy.com, to check that out. If this was of value for you, I'd love for you to share it. If you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the button down below. Thank you very much for your time and energy today, and I look forward to you leveling up your decision-making skills. So, wherever you are on this beautiful, gorgeous, incredible planet of ours, have an absolutely fantastic day and take care.